Hi everyone! So here is our discussion for forecasting, which is module 6, 5, basta, forecasting. Okay? So a lot of you has an idea about forecasting. Yung weather forecasting, yung mga ginagawa ng sa TV, and yung ginagawa ng UP sa COVID-19 numbers ng infected. It's actually forecasting. Okay? So, based on statistics, ganyan, actually forecasting is widely used in business. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kung widely used in business siya, lagi siyang pinag-uusapan sa lahat ng business subjects. Okay? And one of that business subject is managerial economics. Okay? So, dito ang forecasting natin is we are considering economic factors. Okay? Kasi may ibang forecasting that considers financial information, non-financial information. Dito, kay managerial economics, ang pag-aaralan natin, excuse me, pag-aaralan natin is the effect of the economic factors at paano natin gagawin yung forecasting using some techniques. Okay? So, yeah. So, first, let's do learning outcomes muna. So, first, we have define macro and micro forecasting, describe and differentiate the different forecasting techniques, identify the different economic indicators that managers need to watch out for, and then choose and apply the best forecasting techniques. Okay? So let's start with a definition of forecasting. It's actually making predictions of the future based on past and present data. Hindi ito basta hocus-pocus, Madam Auring style lang. Okay? Forecasting is actually using information, past and present, in order to arrive at predictions. Hopefully, accurate estimated predictions. Okay? It is a decision-making tool used by many businesses to help in budgeting, planning, and estimating future growth. So, yun yung malimit ginagamitan ng forecasting. Budgeting, okay? Ranas nyo naman yan in your personal experience pagdating sa budgeting. Kumbaga, pagdating ng allowance mo for 1 week, alam mo na agad kung magkano yung baon mo lang sa araw-araw. Kasi may ibang ginagawa. Although, ang compute ni Mami for 1 week allowance is 200 per day, ang ginagawa mo lang is 100 per day, yung another 100 is ipon mo lang. Okay? So, sa 100, ina-estimate mo na doon, you're actually predicting if yung baon, yung pagkain mo sa araw-araw is hanggang dito lang, then, ay baka mamaya maningil na yung treasurer namin doon sa isa namin contributions. That's actually predictions. Why? Based on past data na nag-announce siya last week. Yung mga ganon. Okay? Planning, syempre, businesses needs forecasting and planning. Why? Kasi you cannot plan ahead of time when you do not predict what are the most likely happenings in the business. Okay, ang ano lang, dapat when you are making plans, inline siya sa vision, mission, goals, and objectives. So, when you're doing planning, you're actually forecasting, okay, and considering internal and external factors affecting the business, and dapat inline siya sa vision, mission, goals, and objectives ng company. Okay, estimating future growth. Mas malimit gamitin siya in estimating future growth, okay? Forecasting predictions. Kumbaga, ito yung dati naming growth, gusto ko malaman yung in the next 10 years, okay? So, next, we have macroeconomic forecasting. So, ang macro, ang kinoconsider niya is yung on a larger level, macro kasi. So, as I have said before, ang macro is on a wider scale, okay, like international, national, regional, and state levels, affecting the economic growth of a country, of a nation, yan, okay? So, examples are GDP, unemployment, interest rates, yan. Yung usual na pinapalabas sa TV, okay? Usually, liban sa showbiz ha, usually yung mga binabalitang sa TV, they affect the economic growth of a company, of a nation, okay? When the economic growth of a nation is affected, businesses as part of the nation is also affected, okay? So that's why we're using macroeconomic factors in forecasting. Kumbaga, binalita sa TV nung March 15 na nag-lockdown ang Manila, meron kang planong tagpuin ng supplier mo ng March 15. Okay? Before March 15, okay, kung nasabi agad, nagawa mo ng paraan. However, hindi nasabi agad. That's one of the reasons why biglang tumigil ang mga negosyo. Kasi biglang nag-announce. Sino ba naman mag-aakalang magla-lockdown ng agad-agad nung araw niya? Wala man lang, kumbaga, wala man lang transition, bigla-biglaan lang. Okay? So, yun. Kaya apektado marami. The whole world stopped. Okay? So, yeah. So, next, we have, it also includes prediction ng consumer spending, that's consumption, business investment. Okay? So, alam natin, for example, yung bali-balitang may papasok na bagong telco. So, yun. Home building, exports, imports, federal purchases, state and local government spending, okay, pati government spending. If you're hearing noises on the background, pasensya na. Okay? So, okay, next we have GDP. So, yan, discuss natin. Ang GDP is gross domestic product. They're actually the value of the final goods or finished goods and services of both domestic or local firms and foreign-owned enterprises dito sa Pilipinas. So, you are considering dito sa Pilipinas lang. Okay? Dito sa Pilipinas lang. Mas madali siyang tandaan gawa dito sa Pinas. So, ibig sabihin, these are those finished goods, finished, hindi raw materials, kailangan finished goods na siya. Finished goods and services that are produced by both domestic and foreign-owned enterprises dito sa Pilipinas. Okay? GNP or Gross National Product is the value of the final finished goods, okay, and services produced by domestic firms. Okay, mas madali siyang tandaan na gawa ng Pinoy. Okay, so pag gawa ng Pinoy, ibig sabihin kahit saan lupalop siya nandoon, kasama siya sa computation ng GNP. So, for example, yung mga OFWs natin, yung remittances nila, they're actually part of GNP. Also, if yung mga foreign Filipino-owned enterprises like kay Jollibee na nag-international na siya, they're part of GNP, Gross National Product. Again, gawa ng Pinoy. Okay? Okay? So, dito, sa macroeconomic forecasting, sinasabi lang dito is, mas marami yung uncontrollable factors to be considered in macroeconomic forecasting. Okay? Why? Kasi on a larger scale siya. Hindi mo naman pwedeng kontrolin yung government spending. Okay? Ayaw nga wag nga daw tayo makialam sa kung anong desisyon ng gobyerno eh. Okay? So, kagaya nun. Okay? That's uncontrollable. So, it's actually unstable and cannot be easily predicted. Who has ever predicted something ahead of time when it comes to macroeconomic forecasting? Okay, for example, this COVID-19. That's macroeconomic level. Pero na lang kung may nanaginip bigla. Tapos, may magkaka-COVID-19 daw. Mas marami pang sasabihin sa'yo, weh, ganun. Okay, so microeconomic forecast is, this one naman is on a smaller scale, okay, on the production level scale, on the company scale. Okay, it's usually economic data of the industry, firm, plant, and product levels. Minsan hindi na siya pinapansin kasi hindi kasi siya binabalita. Okay, for example, biglang nagkaroon ng shortage. Ang shortage kasi madali siyang ibalita, pero yung surplus hindi. Okay? So, this is easier for the analyst due to microeconomic forecast abstracts from the multitude. Okay? For example, demand and supply, elasticity, the diminishing marginal utility, lahat yan on the company level and the industry and the firm and the plant. Okay? So, mas madali siyang, ang microeconomic forecasting is mas madali because abot kamay mo yung data, abot kamay mo yung yung pangyayari. Nararanasan mo siya araw-araw kasi if you're working at a manufacturing firm and you're part of the team that is planning or budgeting or sa mismong production, okay, mas on hand lagi yung data, yung information, okay, when you're doing microeconomic forecasting. Okay, so yun. Forecast techniques. So there are forecasting techniques. However, you have to remember that the best forecast method for any particular task depends on the nature of the forecast problems. Okay? So for example, the best forecast methods for short-term predictions are trend analysis, market experiments, consumer surveys. Bakit? Kasi short-term lang siya. Ito yung mga madadaling gawin na techniques. Simple and mas mabilis siyang gawin. Okay? Short-term predictions lang. Kasi siguro mga 1 year, okay? Quarterly, yung mga ganun. Okay? Pero if you're looking for something, or if you're doing a prediction for 25 years, because you're conducting a strategic management of 25 years of the company, you have to do forecasting techniques that are in such a way sophisticated or mas complex, mas marami siyang variables na ginagamit because this is long term. So, hindi mo alam, baka on the 10th year may nangyari sa company level or even the macroeconomic level. So, that is why you have to consider all possible factors in doing long-run forecasting. So, ganun. So, dahil mas complicated, mas sophisticated, mas mahal. So, wala tayong magagawa. It's actually an investment. If you are a manager and masyado kang nagtipid sa forecasting, ang consequences niyan is baka mali yung maging forecast or baka kulang. Okay? Kaya minsan when you're doing this, ang kailangan mo lang isipin is, will the benefit exceed the cost? So if yes ang sagot mo, gastusan mo na. Okay? So, yun. If the required level of accuracy is low, less sophisticated methods, yun yung sinasabi ko. If medyo pang short term lang, yung mga simple lang for minimal cost. Okay? So, we have forecasting techniques. 4 siya na i-discuss ko. You have qualitative analysis, trend analysis and projection, exponential smoothing, and econometric methods. Okay, let's first start with qualitative analysis. So, qualitative analysis is actually a intuitive approach to forecast that can be useful if it allows for the systematic collection of data from unbiased and informed opinion. Qualitative, quanti and quali. Ang quali, usually most on description, mostly on, dito kasi medyo subjective siya. Ibig sabihin, may bias ng kaunti, may possibility ng bias sa opinion na makukuha. Kaya, there are certain techniques used in qualitative analysis para ma-minimize yung risk of bias. Okay? So, we have expert opinion and survey techniques. Sa expert opinion, we have yung individual lang ang iyong ini-interview or ang iyong binibigyan ng survey. Like, ang tawag dun is personal insight. Okay? This is when an individual uses personal or company experience as a basis for developing future expectations. Okay? So, ikaw, manager, matagal ka na sa company. So, ang basis mo na lang is, alam mo that in the month of March, okay, may malimit pagkagastusan yung top management. Okay, assign ka sa budgeting. So, alam mo, you will be predicting that a higher budget should be given sa, let's say, for example, property, plant, and equipment. Kasi tuwing March, may binibili silang property, plant, and equipment. O, di lagyan mo ng budget. Based on experience yun, that's personal insight. Ano? Okay? That's qualitative analysis. Okay? Subjective siya, pero dapat gagamitan mo ng reasoned judgment. Okay? Hindi yung, December may Christmas party. Tapos ang ginawa mo, hindi mo nilagyan ng budget ang HR na for Christmas party. idea ang Christmas party ng mga empleyado is tapong-tapong. Okay? That's one of the effect of not using experience, okay, as a basis for forecasting. Sino ba naman ang may engganyo sa Christmas party in the company level na tapong-tapong? Okay? So, ang tapong-tapong uso lang sa classroom level. Mga estudyante. Okay? Pero when you're in a company, it's part of HR na may budget sila for some quality time ng mga empleyado. Okay? So, next we have what you call the, kanina individual, ito maramihan, panel consensus method. Okay? Assumes that several experts can arrive at forecasts that are superior to those that individuals generate. So, ito naman, nagkakaroon ng meeting. Okay? You can invite the different department heads, okay, the different managers of the company, okay, or even experts from the field, pwede mong invite, then may meeting. Sa meeting, okay, sa conference, doon yung pag-uusapan. Okay guys, we're going to do a strategic management plan of the company. Okay, what are your insights? What are your forecasts when it comes to financial, when it comes to organizational? Okay, yung mga ganon. Okay, consensus, sama-sama sa isang kwarto. Then, umiimik sila, may presenter, may magre-rebut, okay, arguments will arise, pero it all helps to arrive at in creating an accurate prediction. Okay? So, direct interaction among experts can help to ensure that the resulting forecast embody, okay? So, unfavorable siya kasi, kunwari, may isang manager na, ako in favor ako sa ganito kasi ganito, ganyan, very charismatic. Okay? Ikaw, dati, salungat ka sa kanya. Pero nung umimik siya, because charismatic siya, parang nag-iba ng point of view mo. Hindi mo na masasabi yung opinion mo. Sasabihin mo na lang, oo nga, tama siya. Okay? Pag ganun, ang tawag din is the bandwagon effect. Nakikigo ka na lang. Like for example, yung legislative department natin, okay? So, ang gagawin lang ng iba, ang ginagawa lang nila is usually makikinig na kaunti, okay? Tapos, bandwagon effect. Pag majority, yes. I'm not saying na lahat sila ganon, okay? Pero there are some that are like that. Okay? So, yun. Masama kasi yung bandwagon effect. Kumbaga, nalilimit na yung pool of ideas. Sa halip na ibinigay mo yung idea mo, sinabi mo na, oo na nga lang. Oo na. Okay? So, yun. Next, we have the Delphi method. Okay? Kanina, may limit na may disadvantage siya ng bandwagon effect, the panel consensus method. Dito naman sa Delphi method, medyo nabawasan, okay? Hindi naman medyo, in a greater extent, nabawasan yung bandwagon effect, okay? Kasi ang ginagawa nila, i-invite, okay, yung mga managers, yung mga experts, okay? Pero hindi sila sama-sama sa isang room, okay? May magpa-facilitate ng series of questions. It's either a survey or an interview, okay? So, isa-isa sila. Then, sa isa-isang, kunwari, may 10 ang in-interview nyo, 10 ang hiningan nyo ng opinion, tapos solo lang sila, walang magkakasama. Okay? Afterwards, i-collate nyo lahat, kukumpare nyo lahat ng sagot, then you have to analyze the answers. Okay? And then, afterwards, pag na-analyze yung sagot, you look at the majority of the answers, you just pick the highlights, okay, na ang majority, ganito ang gusto, ganito ang ganyan, ganito ang expected, ganyan, okay, then afterwards, you set a meeting kung saan ibibigay mo yung results ng responses nila, okay, so yan. That's the Delphi method. This limits steamroller or the bandwagon problems. Delphi method. Alam mo yung sabi ng president ng klase niyo, guys, pag-usapan natin issues natin, ganyan. Mag-recollection tayo. That's actually panel consensus. Pero kapag yung president, kinausap niya isa-isa yung mga problema, yung mga officers, yung mga involved persons, tawag doon Delphi. Okay? So, yun. Next, we have survey techniques. So, survey, naka-encounter na kayo ng survey. Kasi I know that sa senior high, maraming research. So, alam ko na kapag survey na kayo. So, survey techniques generally use interviews or mailed questionnaires that ask firms, government agencies, and individuals about their future plans. Yan yung mga checklist. Okay? It's either businesses ang gumagamit or yung customer feedback. Okay? Yung hinihintay ninyo na may free onion rings sa Burger King kapag kayo ay nag-a-answer ng survey, o di kaya naman sa Jollibee, sa Greenwich, may free fries, mga ganon. Okay? That's the survey techniques used by companies when kay Jollibee, kay Greenwich, or actually sa JFC, the Jollibee Foods Corporation, lahat ng establishment nila, dalawa ang kanilang parang two birds in one shot. Kasi malalaman dun sa survey nila kung kung ano ang palaging binibili ng mga consumers. Okay? And kung satisfied ba sila doon sa binili nila. Okay? So, two birds in one shot yun. Okay? Use in budget planning, consumer feedbacks. Okay? So, yun. So, survey techniques sometimes serves as an alternative to quantitative. Okay? So, alam nyo to, yung quanti. Okay? They usually serve as an alternative. However, okay, they frequently supplement rather than replace. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo dapat itigil lang sa survey. Kailangan may quantitative techniques kang gagawin. So, pwedeng quantitative techniques, walang survey, pero mas maganda kung quantitative techniques, may survey. Okay? Kasi mahirap maghanap ng quantitative information sa internet, sa research ng iba. Okay? When you're conducting your own research, okay, especially in forecasting, you have to do these two. Okay? Quantitative and survey. Okay? So, yun. So, pag survey lang, parang walang kwenta lang. So, sige, arin na daw yung survey. Anong gagawin natin dyan? Lagyan mo ng quantitative analysis. Okay? So, yun. So, their value stems from two influences. Number one, you have a hard to quantify psychological element. Okay? Nakaka-capture kasi ng survey techniques, lalo na yung interviews, yung psychological element. Okay? Kung parang nangangatal siya, pag sinasagot niya ito, parang gano'n. Yung manager, tinanong ko tungkol sa budget nila, parang naglilin siya sa left, tumitingin siya sa left, so, tapos kung sa tumitingin, so parang may uncertainty, mga ganon. Okay? As a manager, you need to know body language. Okay? Then second, we have quantitative models generally assume stable consumer taste. Okay? Sa quanti, yun yung stable. However, paano kung ang inaaral mo for forecasting is unstable yung behavior ng consumers? Kaya pumapasok si quali. Okay? So, yun. So, next, we have trend analysis and projection. So, sa trend, these are actually prediction on the assumption that historical relationship will continue in the future. Okay, kumbaga, may trend siya. Okay, yung pagdating ng January, February, March, April, May, June. So, hanggang katapusan, tinitingnan mo yung, for example, consumer behavior. Yung bilang ng bumibili ng toothpaste na Colgate, hindi close up. Colgate. Ganon. Okay? All such methods use time series data. This is time-bound. Okay? Kailangan, usually the result of trend analysis, if your prediction is 25 years, okay, mas mahaba yung time range na hawak, na sakop niya. Okay? Okay, weekly, monthly, and annual series of data on sales and costs, yan, are all examples of economic time series. If you're looking to have a forecast or predictions in a monthly basis, dapat ang titingnan mo is yung quarterly, monthly, and also the annual series of data na meron. Kasi comparability tells us that dapat kaya mo siyang i-compare. You cannot compare weekly with monthly. Okay, you cannot compare quarterly with annual. Okay, so ganun siya. Next, these are the different kinds of trends. You have the secular trend. This one is actually isang straight line pataas or straight line pababa. Ganun lang siya. Okay? Cyclical fluctuation, these are actually rhythmic variations in economic series that is due to a pattern of expansion or contraction. So, when you say expansion, tumataas ang economy. Pag contraction, bumababa, usually recession. Okay? So, when cyclical functions, pag pumasok siya sa recession, pababa, expect na tataas siya, magkakaroon ng expansion. Expect na kapag nagkaroon ng expansion, bababa siya, magkakaroon ng contraction or ng recession. That's cyclical fluctuation. Okay? Seasonal variation or seasonality. So, merong specific time na tumataas yung sales or tumataas yung cost at merong specific time na bumababa yung cost or bumababa yung sales. Okay? Laging doon sa point na yun. That's seasonal. Then, you have irregular or random. This is actually shocks. Mga unpredictable na bigla na lang nagka-spike. Okay? Kagaya ngayon, COVID-19. Marami ang nag-spike ngayon when you are studying the trends. Okay? So, actually, most companies, I predict, okay, based on my knowledge, that when they'll do their trends, pagdating sa 2020, ang trend nila is pababa. Okay. So, yun. So, ito yung itsura ng secular trend. Okay. Yung is one straight line only. Then, this one is for cyclical. Yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. You have prosperity, depression, tapos biglang umakit ulit, tapos biglang bababa, tataas, bababa, cyclical. Okay. Next, we have monthly retail store sales in the US tells you seasonal. Tama, bigla nag-spike. Bigla ding, pero constant siya na may spike at may decrease. That's seasonal. This one naman is irregular, random. Tingnan mo ito. Bigla na lang siyang tumaas. Tapos this one, random. Kumbaga, yung parang at random points, biglang okay, so bigla siyang tumaas, biglang bumaba. As a manager, ayun yan, ganyan. Ayan, pangit tingnan, ang gaganda kaya tingnan ng iba. Ay, yan, pag-aralan natin to. Okay? At some point, you call a prosperity sa year na to. Let's say, this is 1987, kunwari, that's the year of prosperity, tapos biglang bumaba, ang tawag doon, depression. Okay, when you say depression, ito ay bumagsak yung economic growth, tapos ay parang naghihingalo, ganon. Then, recession, ito lang siya, bumababa siya. Then again, depression, then another prosperity, then recovery. Okay, pag pataas na siya, recovery siya, recovering from depression. Okay? Okay? So, yun lang. Long-term secular trend. So, ito yun. Okay? Next, you have the linear trend. Assumes a constant period-by-period unit change. So, ito yung linear. Okay? Linear line lang. And then, the growth trend assumes a constant period-by-period percentage change. So, ang linear trend, unit change. Okay? Ang growth trend, percentage change. Okay? So, parehas silang pwedeng maging line, okay? Pero magkaiba ang unit of measure nila. Yung isa unit change, ito percentage change. Okay? Next, when applying trend projection methods, it is important to establish the degree of similarities in growth opportunities between historical and forecast method. Ito yung sinasabi kong comparable dapat. Okay, dapat the same variables that you measured, okay, last year are the same variables that you will measure this year for your trend analysis. Okay? It's obvious. It's common sense. Okay? An obvious problem is that the accuracy of trend projection depends upon a continuation of historical patterns for sales, costs, and profits. Paano kung biglang wala kang data during, let's say, 2005? Okay, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. Can you have a trend analysis that is accurate? Hindi. Okay? Paano nga kung pinagawa ka from 2000 to 2020? Yun yung sinasabing continuation of historical patterns for sales, costs, and profits. Okay? So, yun. Next, trend projections cannot predict cyclical turning points and offer no help in describing why a particular series moves as it does. So, hindi niya ma-explain kung bakit ganun yung naging movement niya. Okay? Kasi ang ginagawa mo lang naman, nagko-connecting the dots ka lang. Also, it cannot predict, okay, kung kailan magkakaroon ng sunod na turning point. Okay, ibig sabihin ng turning point ay sa halip na recession, nagkaroon ka ng prosperity. Parang gano'n. Okay? You cannot predict that. When it's cyclical, alam mo na, okay, tumigil tayo sa recession. So, malamang expect natin sa next year, magkakaroon tayo ng recovery or ng prosperity. So, gano'n. Okay, more sophisticated time series forecasting techniques such as Bob's Jenkin's technique are the ones that provide the means in order to predict the cyclical turning points and kung bakit ganun yung movement ng trend na yun. Okay? So next, one of the most important economy-wide consideration is the business cycle. Okay? Alam nyo to? It's a rhythmic pattern of contraction expansion observed in overall economy. Okay, ang tawag dun business cycle. So, periods of economic expansion that are longer than a contraction is a sign of a growing and developing economy. So, this one, mas gusto ng manager or even the economist that the economic expansion is longer than the contraction. Kasi if spiking lagi siya, parang kakabahan ka na. Pero kapag, kunwari, for 10 years time, you have economic expansion. Tapos biglang bumaba siya. Okay, sana yung pagbaba hanggang 2 years lang. Tapos biglang magre-recovery na siya ulit. So, ganun. That's a business cycle. Okay. So, next we have economic indicators. We have composite index. So, this is used in knowing the economic growth of a nation. Okay, so yan. It's a weighted average of leading coincident or lagging economic indicators. Keep in mind that the weights used in the construction of these composite indices vary over time. So yun yung ginagamit ha, parang computation to arrive at numerals to describe the economic indicators. Okay? So the composite index of leading indicators usually turns down just prior to the start of a recessionary period. So if lagi mong kinocompute yung composite index with the help of economists, okay, tapos biglang ang trend mo is pababa, okay, expect na magkakaroon ng economic recession period. Okay? Similarly, this data series usually bottoms up and then starts to rise just prior to the start of subsequent economic expansion. So, indicator siya na maaaring magkakaroon ng economic expansion kasi ang ating composite index is sa pataas. Common stock prices are a good leading indicator of general business activity. Okay? If nababalitan nyo sa TV na kunwari bumagsak ang stock market ng Pilipinas, ganyan-ganyan, that's actually, yung nanonood lang sila sa screen. Okay? The common stock are usually the indicators of economic activity. Okay, ngayon, marami ang nakapula. If you're familiar with the stock market, okay? If not, you can research it in the internet, what the stock market looks like. Okay? So, pag marami sa stock markets ng mga bansa is nakapula, okay? You know that baka papunta tayo sa recession. Or if lahat ng stock markets ng buong bansa is naka-green, okay, you know that maybe we're having a worldwide economic boom. Okay? So next, you have This one, paulit-ulit, economic recession. Decline in activity spread across the economy that lasts more than a few months. So recessions are visible in terms of falling industrial production, declining real income, shrinking wholesale retail trade, and rising unemployment. Ooh, wow, it looks familiar. COVID-19 effect. Recession. It is most accurate to describe recession as a period of diminishing economic activity and not a period of diminished economic activity. So, ito ay diminishing pa lang. Okay? Sa pababa pa lang, hindi yung diminished. Okay? Next. Recession begins just after the economy reaches a peak of output and employment and ends as the economy reaches its trough. Okay? So, ang recession, usually, if a country has a cyclical trend, it will follow a, kailan ko ba pwede sabihin, the time of President Aquino. Okay, there was a peak of output and employment during his time. Okay, and during the time of President Gloria, during those times. Okay, then afterwards, the next president, we have nagkaroon ng paunting-unting pag-drop ng employment rate until such time dumating si COVID-19 that there is a sudden spike. There was a sudden decrease in employment rate. Okay? At biglang spike ng unemployment rate. Okay? A period between a month of peak economic activity and the subsequent economic low point defines the length of a recession. So, ang titingnan mo is, if you're doing a trend, you look for the month of peak economic activity, and then you look for the month or the year of economic low point, okay? During that time, yun yung tinatawag na recession. Okay? Pag ganun, ting, kita mo yung kanina sa illustration, yung recession, pababa siyang ganun. From a peak towards a low point. Okay? So, yun lang yun. Next, a period following recession is called economic expansion. Okay? Economic expansion is, in many cases, economic activity is below normal during both recessions. Okay? Economic expansion, dumalago na, starting to grow, kaya nga expansion. Some refer to periods of less than typical economic growth as slumps. Okay? Ito yung yung parang, but there is no official recognition of characterization of economics. Ito yung basta bigla ka na lang tumaas. May slump ang tawag. So, ganun. In many cases, okay, ito yung gusto ng marami. Economic expansion and economic, parang growth. Yun. Kasi, when the economy rises, mas ramdam ng tao yung ginhawa ng life. Kasi ibig sabihin, mataas yung consumption, mataas yung investments, mataas yung exports than imports. Okay? So, mas ramdam na mas okay tayo. So, next we have exponential. Another method is exponential smoothing. So, it is a method for forecasting trends in unit sales, unit costs, wages, expenses, and so on. So, usually these are forecasting in, gamit siya sa budgeting, pero pwede din siyang gamitin sa other aspects of the business. Okay, the technique identifies historical patterns of trend or seasonality in the data and then extrapolates these patterns forward into the forecast period. So, dito, again, past trends, pero mas mahaba, mas longer yung range ng past trends na tinitingnan niya. Okay, then it will forecast in longer periods. Okay? So, the more regular the pattern of change in any given data series, the easier it is to forecast. Okay? Kapag kita na merong cyclical or seasonality sa changes sa data series, mas madaling mag-forecast gamit ang exponential smoothing. Okay? It's actually called averaging, are among the most widely used forecasting methods in business. O, lagi siyang ginagamit. Okay? So, we have key components, level, trend, and seasonality. Kailangan you have to consider these three. Ang level po is, level of the time series to be forecast is the average about which it fluctuates. So, average po ang gamit, and then the average fluctuations na ginagamit. Then, next is the level may be constant or slowly changing. So, kapag constant, pag ina-average mo, lagi siyang 1. Kumbaga, yung percentage change niya is laging 1, laging 2, laging 3. That's constant. Percentage change ha, kahit tumaas siya ng 100, kung ang sunod niyang taas ay 10, from 100 to 110, from 110 to 120, the percentage change is usually at 10. Tama ba? Basta ganun. Okay? And, slowly changing, kapag mula 100, naging 110, at the next trend shows that from 110, naging 125, so at 125, naging 140, and then at 140, naging 170, okay? That's actually slowly changing. So, yan. So, ang pangit talaga ng aking transitions. Okay, trend. Trend is any systematic change in the level of the time series of data. So, ito yung pinag-aralan natin kanina, the circular, cyclical, seasonal. Okay, so yan. Next, seasonality. This one is a pattern of change tied to weather, custom, or tradition. Okay, retail sales typically exhibit a strong seasonal trend over the course of the year. Seasonality. So, for example, mas marami ang bumibili ng bulaklak tuwing February and November. Seasonality. Okay, kaya ang flower shop, dahil seasonality, mas mataas ang sales tuwing February at November. Seasonality. Okay? Also, for example, a period of Ramadan. Okay? Sa period of Ramadan, mababa ang sales if you are in a Arab country, mababa ang sales ng pagkain. Kasi they are fasting. So, that's seasonality. Okay, then after the period of Ramadan, yung celebration na feast, biglang spike ng sales when it comes to food. Okay, so ganun. Next, we have seasonal components can be additive, meaning seasonal patterns remain constant over time. So, yun yung tawag sa kanya when it's constant over time, additive. Or multiplicative, when seasonal patterns grow with the average level of the series. So, kapag ganito, ang additive is parang monthly, quarterly, and January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Ang multiplicative naman, seasonal trends is for yung kanina pong pinakita sa inyo. From 2018, tumaas pati yung seasonal trend niya ng 2019. At 2020, tumaas din pati yung level ng increase at decrease niya at 2020. That's multiplicative. Okay? Next, exponential smoothing. You have 1 parameter, 2 parameter, and 3 parameter. So this one, let's start with 1 parameter. Ang 1 parameter po, also known as simple exponential smoothing, is isa lang po ang component sa data series. Okay, at the sole regular component is the level. Level lang. Okay, it is implicitly assumed that the data consists of irregular fluctuations around a constant. So, yun yung assumption lagi. Appropriate for forecasting sales in mature markets with stable activity. Gagamitin mo lang siya kapag mature yung market and with stable activity. Hindi po siya pwedeng gamitin kapag rapidly growing yung market at seasonal. Okay? 1 parameter, wag sa seasonal. The next, 2 parameter consists of fluctuations about a level that is changing with some constant or slowly drifting linear trend. So, gamit mo siya when there are fluctuations. Okay? Sa level. So, it's also called the Holt method after its originator, C.C. Holt, and it is appropriate for forecasting sales in established markets with stable growth. Okay, established markets with stable growth, and inappropriate if there are rapidly growing markets. So, hindi mo pa rin siya pwedeng gamitin sa rapidly growing, yung mabilis, yung biglang ganun lang. Okay? Next, Three-parameter, also known as Winters exponential smoothing, extends the two-parameter technique by including a smooth multiplicative index to account for the seasonal behavior. Yan. Ito, gumagamit siya ng complex multiplicative index para i-consider yung seasonal at fluctuating behavior. Okay, this one is also yan, by PR Winters. Then, pwede siyang gamitin sa both rapidly growing markets and rapidly decaying markets with seasonal influences. So, mas complicated siya, pero mas appropriate siya sa mga bagay na, sa mga trends, sa mga markets, and sa mga seasonal influences na with fluctuations. Okay? So, yan. Hindi ko na papakita sa inyo kung paano kumpitin, ha? So, yan. What are the ideal techniques used for each product phase in the product life cycle? You know, the product life cycle, it's when it became, it's from the purchase of raw materials to the finished goods. And then, to the finished goods hanggang sa siya ay mabenta. Okay? That's a product life cycle. So, we have sales period. The life cycle of product often involves an introduction or startup period, followed by rapid growth, maturity, decline, and abandonment. The appropriate forecast varies over this cycle. Okay, so this one, so sa product life cycle, from finished goods to raw materials to hanggang sa siya'y mabenta. At the same time, these are yung hanggang sa manawa yung tao sa kanya. Okay? So, yun yung hanggang saan tatagal yung product mo. Okay? So, we have phase 1, introduction, startup. So, kapag unang beses mo palang pinakilala siya sa market, ang una mo munang gamitin if you would like to forecast during that period of time is qualitative methods and market experiments. Okay? Simplihan mo muna. Then afterwards, kapag bigla nag-boom, maraming bumili sa kanya, okay, that's the phase 2, the rapid growth. Okay? You forecast using three-parameter exponential smoothing and trend analysis. Okay, pagsamahin mo yung hand-in-hand, trend analysis and three-parameter. Bakit three-parameter ang gagamitin mo? Kasi there's rapid growth. Okay, baka nga may seasonal influence na. Okay, then afterwards, sa maturity, okay, yung parang, okay, parang bumaba na yung hype niya. Okay? So, gamitan mo siya ng two-parameter exponential smoothing and econometric method. So, dito kasi sa part na to, wala na masyadong rapid growth, walang masyadong rapid decay, wala pa. Okay? So, pagdating naman sa phase 4, that's decline and abandonment. Okay? You use a three-parameter exponential smoothing and trend analysis pa rin. Why? Because this, magkakaroon siya ng rapid, kita nyo sa graph, rapid decay. Okay? And we know that three-parameter exponential smoothing is the only smoothing that can accommodate for the rapidly decaying characteristics. Ano? Okay? So next, we have econometric methods. So econometric methods combine economic theory with statistical tools to predict economic relations. So dito, mas sophisticated na siya. Okay, kasi you back up theory with computations. Okay? Advantages niya, force the forecaster to make explicit assumptions about the linkages among the variables in the economic system being examined, which increases reliability. So, yung forecaster, kailangan na-force. Napipilitan siyang magkaroon ng explicit assumptions kasi sabi nga, it is backed up with statistical analysis. Hindi pwedeng implied lang yung assumption. Kailangan explicit. Okay? Because of that, yung reliability niya, kasi hindi ka pwedeng mag-explicit assumption without financial and non-financial information backing it up. Hindi pwedeng hula-hula lang. Okay? Kaya mas reliable siya. Increases reliability. Then the forecaster can compare forecasts with actual results and use insights gained to improve the forecast model. So once you formulated the forecast model or the predictions, okay, pwede mo siyang na-predict mo na, pwede mong i-compare sa actual results, and then when you compare the results, okay, pwede kang mag-note ng recommendations, okay, and areas of improvement doon sa forecast model. So, pwede mo siyang gamitin uli if applicable sa next forecasting period. Okay? The next, the type of output provided, which provide both direction and magnitude of change. So, dito, yung output ni Econometric Methods, okay, it provides pasaan, direction, kung ikaw ba ay growing or declining, okay, ikaw ba ay left, right, okay, ikaw ba ay shift to the left, shift to the right, right, left, ganon. And then, the magnitude of change, gaano katindi, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 1.5, 100, 200, okay, so ganun. Ability to explain economic phenomena. So, when using econometric methods, you have the ability to explain economic phenomena because it is backed up by more information. Okay? Kasi nga may explicit kang assumption eh. Mas marami ang naging basehan mo to make that explicit assumption, and because of that, you can actually explain why the direction, bakit ganun yung direction, bakit ganun yung magnitude of, and actually identify economic phenomena. So, ganun. Ito lahat to, ha? Okay, so, last topic. Choose the best forecasting technique. So, paano nga ba? Paano ba mamili? Unang-una, you have to consider the cost-benefit, okay? The best forecast technique is one that carefully balances marginal costs and marginal benefits. Okay, we all know in accountancy, in management accounting, that the benefits should surpass the cost. So, kahit gagastos ka, dapat yung nagastos mo is mas maliit kaysa sa benefits na makukuha mo. Okay? If only more restricted samples of data are available, ibig sabihin, confidentiality issue, or hindi ka mabigyan kasi restricted yung information, ang gamitin mo ay simpler forecast methods. Then, if trends cyclical, seasonal, or irregular can be recognized, the forecast techniques that are capable of handling those patterns can be readily selected. So, pwedeng trend analysis, pwedeng exponential smoothing, 1 parameter, 2 parameter, or 3 parameter. Okay? Depende yon. Also, kapag sophisticated time series models can provide accurate short-term forecast, ang problema mo kasi dito, if yung time series models na magiging basis ng iyong information, ng iyong data to create forecast, okay? Or yun yung basis or yung iyong data to be used for the forecasting techniques, okay? In creating short-term forecasts, pwede siyang gamitin, okay? Ang problema lang, sophisticated siya. So, kailangan mong pagtuunan ng mas mahabang panahon in doing the short-term forecast. Okay? For long-range forecast, econometric models are often appropriate. So, yun nga, pag mas mahaba yung forecasting mo, econometric models yung gamitin mo. Okay? Okay, I would like to add also the sophisticated time series models, yun yung trends. Okay, the trends can give accurate short-term forecast. Okay, mag-alala. Okay, they can give that. Then, when economic conditions are stable, econometric models are seldom more accurate than more simple trend projections. So, pag stable yung economic conditions, gamitan mo na lang ng trend projections and exponential smoothing methods. Kasi stable naman. Okay? Ang econometric model, sophisticated na nga, hindi pa ganun ka-accurate. Okay? Kapag stable ang economic conditions na pinag-aaralan mo. Pero kapag otherwise, ang econometric models ang mas accurate in a unstable. Okay, pwede din yung 3-parameter exponential smoothing for rapidly growing and rapidly decreasing. Okay, when both smoothing and econometric methods yield the same result, pumili ka na lang ng mas accurate and mas maraming information. Accurate and precise information, okay? And kapag magkaiba sila ng yield, result, medyo, kung pipili ka, you have to exercise extreme care. Kasi depende yan sa results eh. Kumbaga, pag dumating ka sa point na yon, you have to gather more information. Okay, na, alin na pipiliin ko dito? Wait, research lang ako. Okay, I need to gather more data. I need more. Ganun. Okay? Then next, when forecast accuracy is low, okay, the probability of significant forecasting error is high, as in the chance of making suboptimal managerial decisions. Okay, kung sala-sala yung forecast, expect na ang error sa forecasting is high. Ma'am, kailan ba nagiging ang forecast accuracy is low? Kapag kakaunti yung data na ginamit mo, kapag restricted yung data mo, or kapag hindi tama yung ginamit mong technique in doing the forecast. So, mababa yung accuracy niya. Pag ganon, yung forecasting results, yung predictions na magagawa mo is mataas ang error. Okay? So, yun. So, pag mataas ang error ng iyong predictions, malamang hindi ka makakagawa ng ayos na managerial decision. Suboptimal lahat. Okay? So, when forecast accuracy is high, the probability of substantial forecasting errors reduce and the chance of making erroneous managerial decisions is low. So, that's the other way around. Kapag tama yung ginagawa mo sa forecasting techniques, marami kang information gathered, marami kang kinonsidered na factors, both macro and microeconomic, mas mababa yung chances ng error sa forecasting mo and yung predictions mo is mas mag-yield ng greater managerial decisions. Depende pa rin yun sa manager kasi baka mamaya basta-basta na lang nag-predict yung manager. Okay? And it is reasonable to require a relatively high level of forecast accuracy when the cost of forecast error are high. So, kapag masyadong high yung level ng forecast accuracy, okay, kailangan ready ka doon sa, ang tawag din? Wait. Rephrase. It is reasonable to require a relatively high level of forecast accuracy when the cost, okay. Kapag alam mo na marami kang naging problema in gathering data and in choosing which techniques or even applying the techniques used kahit tama, okay, ang forecast error, ang tawag doon, forecast error risk is high, okay, expect na dapat relatively high din yung control measures mo. Okay? So parang yung data ko medyo sasala. Yung data ko medyo kulang. So anong gagawin ko kung ganon? So ang gagawin ko na lang is hindi ako titigil sa exponential smoothing. Pagkatapos ko mag 3 parameter, gagamit ako ng econometric methods. Okay? Pagkatapos mag-econometric methods, titingnan ko if pwede siyang i-check ng trend. So, if hindi, more econometric methods. Okay? So, yun. So, ganun siya. Okay? When the data given is restricted, is kulang, and even the forecasting techniques ay hindi nyo alam kung paano gawin, you have to back it up with more to yield more accurate results. Ano? Okay? When only minor cost results from forecast error, inexpensive and less precise methods can be justified. Okay? Kapag kasi ang kumpanya masyadong if the company relies on your prediction in purchasing or in expanding the negosyo or the business, medyo high stakes siya. So, pag nagkamali ka, lagot ka. Pero kapag naman ang predictions lang naman niya is, let's say for example, gusto lang niya makita if kailangan i-increase ang advertising expense based on the trend of sales. So, okay lang na, hindi naman talaga okay. Parang, mas maganda kung yung methods na gagamitin mo, accurate pa rin, pero less expensive. Okay? So, ganun lang siya. I hope this is clear to you. So, yan. So that ends the discussion. So critical thinking questions po natin. As a future manager, future CPA, and a future CMA, are you ready to take on the task of forecasting? Kung ang sagot mo ngayon is not yet, it's okay kasi nag-aaral ka pa. Pero by the time you graduate and by the time you become a CPA, CMA, or even a manager, dapat tanungin nyo to ulit, am I ready to bear the task of forecasting? Kasi mahirap talagang mag-forecast kasi may nakasalalay sa yung mga tao for decision making. Lalo na yung high-scaled capital expenditure na magiging decision will be based on your prediction and forecast. So, yun. So, that ends my discussion. Hopefully, you learned something. Pasensya na kung medyo yung thought processing is medyo gulo-gulo kasi parang ang bilis-bilis dumadaan sa utak ko. Kailangan kong tumigil para ilabas lahat. Okay? So, yun. So, if you have questions, you may ask me, okay? And expect more videos regarding managerial economics for this time period. Kasi next sem, iba na yung magiging topics. Okay? So, bye-bye!